The book that I decided for the book review is Assistive Technology in the Classroom, Enhancing the School Experience of Children with Disabilities. This is by Elizabeth Arias. Uh, about about the book. So I already said the title. The authors. There's three authors to the book, and we have Emmy, professor who's a professor at the College of New Jersey, Barbara, who is also a professor at the Southern Connecticut State University, and Jerry, who is a professor at the College of New Jersey. So overall, the summary. The book obtains definitions of what is assistive technology and why it is necessary for students with disabilities to have access to this technology. It discusses the types of I can never say this word. Assistive technology continuum, such as low tech tools, mid-tech tools, and high-tech tools. It also examines the way that technology can be helped for success for the success of reading, writing, and math in students with disabilities. All in all, the use of this technology is needed for the success of the student in the classroom and once they enter the environment. So pretty much all to sum it up, the book is pretty much all about all the different types of technology that can be used in the classroom and how you can buy something and add stuff to it, and how ultimately this technology will help the student in the long run. So my review on the book is Assistive Technology in the Classroom a good thing? So yes, I am an inclusive teacher. Most of the time, I have to use some type of technology to help my students with disabilities. The use of technology will also enhance their learning. We will review the ways that it does this in this book review. So like I mentioned, I am a preschool teacher, and I do have students with disabilities, and sometimes it's very needed, I feel. However, in my workplace, they do not let us use any form of technology within the classroom. I sometimes get away with it. But I feel that it's actually needed. What I like about the book, I like that it went over the different types of assistive technology and how it would help specific students. The part that I enjoyed the most was at the beginning of the book when it went into detail about the IDEA Act and Section 504. I know in one of the parts, I believe it's in the IDEA Act, it states that if the child has a disability and is in need of assistive technology, that they can actually bring it into the classroom. However, the child has to have an IEP, which my children do not because they're too young. So that was kind of a bummer to find out about. Also, that transition planning once out of high school, which can be found on page 279, it goes into further detail about why we should give certain technologies to students with disabilities, and it would ultimately lead to their success in the community. So the book is broken into 4 different parts. Each part, I believe, has about 5 chapters. The first one has 7 chapters, part 2 has 2 chapters, part 3 has 3 chapters, and part 4 has 3 chapters. So it's broken up into benefits of technology and special education, access to computers and mobile devices, argumentative communication, and putting it all together and making it happen. Part 1 and part 2 were actually my favorite parts of the book. So types of assistive technology. So this is all stuff that I got from the book. auditory prompting, which was one of the technologies you can use, text to speak, autocorrect, auto books, speak to recognition apps, spell check. So these are all stuff that's already inputted into your computer, which I didn't actually know is part of the Assistive Technology track changes app. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's actually the app, like if you have an iPhone, the one that predicts what word you're going to use next. So that's what that is. Speak to text, which I actually found out is not the same as the first one in the top, which is text to speak. One of them, I believe it's so speak to text is you speaking into a microphone to the computer, and then the computer is pretty much writing down what you're saying. The other one is you pushing on the word on the screen and the computer speaks it back to you. So the input methods onto a computer. So this was completely new to me. I didn't know anything about that. And actually, like, I think I kind of knew about it because as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh yes, that makes sense. But it's not until like I read the book that I was like, oh yeah, So for most of us, we know that there's like the mouse, but for example, the book goes into saying like for certain students that have PC, they can't, or sorry, for students that have CP, they have like little movement or lacking control in one arm or have more strength in one arm. So this is where either they can use a mouse or they can use a keyboard or the touch screen. And it also goes into detail about how the mouse could be changed from a left-handed user to a right-handed user, or right-handed user to a left-handed user, which I did not know and I was not aware of until reading this book. So the devices and tools called Assistive Technology Continuum. So that's what I was saying in the beginning about low-tech tools. So there's so many type of different technologies or assistive technologies that I guess we don't really think about, but for these children that have disabilities, it makes all the difference. So for example, the book goes into detail about like low tech, and there's actually a figure on page 5 that you can actually go and look, but I got some of the stuff that's on the figure, and it says, so pencil grips. So for someone that cannot hold a smaller pencil, like a thin pencil, if you put some kind of clay or grip over it, then that'll help them. For those students that can't write and hold the paper because of they have little mobility with one hand, they can definitely use a paper holder. And then there's mid-tech tools, which is like a calculator, auditory books, and digital recording. And then there's high tech tools, which is like iPad with apps, desktop that has certain things that are already inputted in it. And then obviously there's inputs and outputs that you can use in your technology. So moving on, assistive technology for the transition of high school to home to workplace and communication. This is found on page 276, and it states, just as students with learning disabilities need to be prepared for college by learning assistive technology tools in high school, so students with complex disabilities must learn to use the assistive technology tools that will help them function more independently. So ultimately, that's what we want, is for every student to be independent. So that was actually one of the quotes that I took from the book, and you can find that on page 280. So in conclusion, it's a good book. It offers many suggestions on technology, as stated in the book. Technology will increase students' motivation, concentration, and engagement in learning activities. So once you give them the opportunity to be part of the class with all these technologies, the student will want to participate, and ultimately you'll get better results, which is for me, for a special education teacher, I feel that technology is truly a way to go, and we should probably try to incorporate that more in our curriculum. However, this book doesn't really go into suggestions on how to pretty much incorporate it into the curriculum, and it also doesn't give any suggestions on how teachers should be trained, because I do believe that teachers should be trained on how to help students with these things. Also, the book backtracks a lot. So you're going to be like in chapter 5, and it's going to be saying stuff about chapter 12, or you're going to be in chapter 10, and it's going to be referring you back to something that you read on chapter 6. So it does go back and forward a lot, and it's not that much of reader friendly, but it is a very good book, and it does help you understanding different types of technology. Overall, I give the book rating a 4 out of 5. So, it is I thought it was a really good book, and like I mentioned, I work with children with disabilities, and we're not allowed to use technology in my classroom, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to read this book, just so I can have something to fall back on if I'm shut down again. So, I just wanted to have that. So this is pretty much what I used for the whole presentation. So I hope you enjoy this, and this is a must read. Just be very patient with it. It is a lot of words. It's a lot to take in all at once. So just break it up. It's pretty much what I did. But yeah, overall it is a good book. So thank you.